Alright, let me get situated. Where do we even begin? Well, I will say, I started this year making a video in this flannel with this exact camera angle, so I kind of wanted to throw it back to that, since this is the last video of 2021, which basically felt like one giant year combined with 2020. It's been a crazy ride. And there's a lot to discuss for the future, because I made a video, I don't know how many months ago, closing a chapter. And I talked about how I wanted to move on to the next chapter of my life at the end of this year. So in 2022, I don't want to be doing the same thing that I was doing in 2021. And a lot of y'all interpreted that as I'm quitting YouTube, which I understand how you came to that conclusion because I was a bit vague about it. But that's not the case. That was never the case. Actually, I'd been planning this out for quite some time before that, before the birth of my son, before I made that video. I've been planning out what I wanted to do next, because the fact of the matter is, I need a little bit more coffee. That's... Okay. The fact of the matter is, I can't... I think I've exhausted most of my knowledge in terms of the type of videos I currently make. I make videos about computer science, about software engineering, doing those things as a student and professionally, and some topics within those, with a few coding videos of my own projects sprinkled in between. The problem is, I'm no longer a professional software engineer, and for however many years now, I haven't been a computer science student. So it's a bit redundant for me to continue to make those types of videos, because I think I've already made all the videos I can on that topic matter. I've taken all of this information out of my head and given it to y'all already. I can continue to try to make those videos again and again and again and again and again until, I mean, there's always going to be new individuals coming into programming and they want to see new and up-to-date videos on that topic matter, but I don't like doing it that much. I don't dislike it, don't get me wrong. I enjoy coming in here and making videos, but I would rather make different videos. Which brings me to my plan for 2022. It's not going to start immediately once the new year strikes, at least for y'all, because I will be working on it, but video-wise, not just yet. I want to do exactly what I said in that video and close that chapter of making the tips and tricks videos and the computer science student advice videos and the software engineer advice videos. Maybe there are going to be a few topics that occur once every other month that I make a video about. But I went from computer science student, and I brought y'all along with me the whole time, to software engineer, and now I need to evolve even further. I use that terminology because Pokemon, but you know, what is the next step from professional software engineer? Something that you would rather do even more so than that? Be a hobbyist coder. And that's what I want to do. And obviously all of that, I want to bring y'all along for the journey. I feel like that has always been my ultimate goal, to be a hobbyist coder / coding my own ideas that I could turn into businesses, you know, like startups, whatever it may be. If that's confusing, I will say I've kind of been doing that, just far and few between, whereas the majority of my working life, as y'all see on this YouTube channel, is making videos about those topics I previously discussed, with a few coding videos sprinkled in between. I want to reverse those roles. I want my channel to be just straight up coding vlogs, with maybe a few of those topic videos sprinkled in between when I deem necessary, or when y'all have a lot of similar questions that I feel like I would like to address. And dog is barking. And that is my plan for when I come back in 2022. Hobbyist coder, working on all these different projects that I find to be fun, that could or may not be businesses. You just get the idea. I want to work on these coding projects, put them into coding vlog format, not like my dislike count videos where I just coded and kind of gave you the retrospective of what the issue was and what I decided to do and how the code works, but a little bit more of a sneak peek into the behind the scenes of coding these projects and taking you along for the ride instead of just updating you afterwards. But yeah, I mean, that's my plan for 2022 on this channel. Straight up coding videos with maybe a few others sprinkled in between. This video is sponsored by Privacycom, by the way. I don't know if I already mentioned that, but they have actually, it's fitting that they're the sponsor of today's video because they've actually been a really good part of this channel over the past almost entire year. Has it been the entire year? By supporting what I do on a consistent basis by sponsoring many videos month after month. And I just wanted to include them in this video because they helped allow me to do the things that I'm doing and that I'm about to do in 2022. Which, by the way, the coding vlogs and the other, videos sprinkled here and there that may seem fit are not the only bits of content that I'll be making in 2022. As a matter of fact, I have a podcast coming out. At least I want to start a podcast. I should probably be underway by now, but who knows? In January, I want to hire a designer, get them to design a few different things for my podcast, like graphic design and stuff like that. And what is the podcast going to be about? That's a tricky one because I don't want the podcast to have an actual goal. I want it to be like you grab your coffee, you sit back, and you just kind of riff with a friend. And that's what I want the podcast to be about, telling stories, having laughs, just kind of shooting the breeze. I will say the initial group of guests will be in this niche, and maybe we'll continue on that route where I do want to hear people's stories about what projects they're working on. That's one of the main goals of the overall podcast, not each individual episode, but the overall podcast. I want to hear from indie developers, other hobbyist coders, or people that are trying to build startups and companies, and that type of stuff is just so interesting to me. What I don't want this podcast to be is like some collaborations you've seen me in the past with the previous freelance episode that y'all saw this month, as well as when I had Ken on to talk about data science. There was an intent, a particular goal that we wanted to hit with that, and I was talking about software engineering versus data science and how to get into that type of area. And then freelancing was to learn more about how to become a freelance developer and what that was all about. So I had Tim on as he's a professional freelance developer. That's not what I want. While I enjoyed making those, I don't want it to have a focus. I want to talk about just random things that may come up that we may have commonalities. Like, what if we both share a random hobby and we just want to talk about that random hobby for 30 minutes? I'm not going to say no to that. That's what I enjoy doing. Maybe some of y'all won't like it if it's not pertained to code. But again, I think the vast majority will be pertaining to code with a few tangents here and there. But who knows? I tangent all the time. I'm very long-winded, so the conversation can really go anywhere, especially depending on who the guest is and how the chemistry is between me and the guest. Some, it may be a little bit more strict. My main goal is just to get them to come in, hang out, not really worry about it too much, and have a good time. Talk about their coding project they have going on, talk about their startup, whatever. But I also have a lot of individuals that I would want to have on that maybe I'm fans of, or tech YouTubers. There are a few that I think would be a cool addition to, someone to podcast with. There's this architect who just started his own podcast that I recently found, and I think that would be a fun collaboration. He makes like cool tech videos, but he's also an architect, so he makes some architect videos. Like, there's so many possibilities with this podcast where it's just decoding people's stories. Because I like stories, I like hearing stories, I like sharing stories, and that's what I want this podcast to be all about. I don't know. I know my ideas are all over the place, but that's kind of the point. That's what I want for the podcast, for the ideas to be all over the place, because people live more than just what they present online or just what their profession is. People are multidimensional. Again, they're not just whatever they say they do. They're not just their career or their profession. They have other hobbies and other things that they enjoy doing, and I want to talk about that stuff. I just think it'll be a lot of fun, and that's why I decided to do the podcast. So, to learn about indie developers, projects, as well as to learn a little bit more about the indie developers, to see what similarities, what common interests rather, that we have. that's the podcast. And I'm sure it'll evolve over time. I'll figure it out. I haven't recorded a single podcast episode yet, just to put it in perspective. So who's to say that it won't be, something in particular 6 months from now after we have however many episodes? Like, I want to keep it in the spirit of there's really not a goal. Like, I don't want you to come to that podcast if you need this advice or if you need that advice, but because you're interested to hear the stories that may be shared in that podcast. Yeah, that gets me excited. I think that'll be a good one. 2022, coding vlogs, fun story time podcasts. Yeah, I'm excited. And there's something else it's under lock and key right now. I can't talk about it, but it could, because it may or may not happen, but it could be very, very interesting if it does happen. And obviously I'll let y'all know. Y'all will hear more and more about it. Trust me, you will. You may even get annoyed by it, but 2022, I think, is going to be a very fun year. And that's really the main goal. Fun year. Hope to make a lot of progress in my life, in the YouTube channel, in the podcast, meet a lot of new people, learn a lot of new things. And I feel like I could just talk and talk and talk, but I guess I'll save that for the first episode of the podcast if I decide to do one by myself. Because I don't know if I'll be able to have a guest every single episode, but we'll see. I want to say I appreciate every single one of y'all watching this entire year. This, I'm pretty sure, was my best year yet. As a matter of fact, November was my best month yet in terms of views, even though I'm not sure how much I uploaded, but I had a few videos do really well. So if you're coming from that, or you're a longtime subscriber, new, not subscribed, you just kind of check in from time to time, I just want to say thank you for watching my videos. I really appreciate it, and I'm very excited for what we have planned in 2022, and I hope you're along for the ride. And I think that's about it. If you're a student, hope you're having a good winter break. Hope you had a good Christmas or whatever it may be. Have a happy new year. And I'll see y'all sometime in 2022. I don't know when yet, but sometime.